Welcome back to day 3 of Junktober. Yes, I'm wearing the same sweatshirt because I filmed this on the same day as yesterday. I did say at the top of the series that the goal was going to be to post a new video every day in October. I never promised I was going to not film parts of them in the same day. The prompt for today is RUNE. And I have some cool ideas for that. I'm thinking, what do all graveyards have? Grave sites, tombstones, statues, things like that. So for RUNE, I want to make a bunch of tombstones, maybe some sort of more like plinthy type of gravestones. And also, I want to add some cool, spooky details. I know I made the prompt list myself, but I actually need to research what actually the word RUNE means. I think that it would be helpful to learn the actual definition, but probably I'll end up just doing some interesting spooky symbols. I mean, I made the rules, so I feel like I can put whatever I want on these tombstones. To make these tombstones, I'm gonna do it out of XPS foam. Little reminder of where we left off. We made this cool base and a cool spooky path out of some egg carton. Probably gonna put my air conditioner on, so I apologize if the sound suffers. And I know what you're thinking, Betsy, you're wearing a sweatshirt. I know. I have made a tombstone before. On this channel, I have a video where I made some dice jails, and one of them was a tombstone, and I did it with XPS foam. I've also carved just a lot of XPS foam for rocks and things. I'm gonna take my sharpest snap blade that I have. These Anvil brand ones are super, super cheap. I think you can buy replacement blades for these, so I do highly recommend that because I would hate to have to throw out this plastic all the time. I do have multiple ones. Anyway, do with that information what you will. I really hate having to dispose of things, especially plastic. But with a blade, it is kind of necessary because you need them to be sharp. First thing I want to do is just make a bunch of generic tombstones, and then I can worry about some of the more elaborate ones later. The thinnest XPS foam that I have is a 1/2 inch, which is actually a little too thick, at least for the smaller tombstones. However, I've said it before in videos, I do not have a hot wire cutter, so I'm gonna be doing all of this with a knife. You really gotta let your knife do the work here. I think that too often I will force the knife, and that often will tear the XPS, and like this one has tiny little bits of tears, but that's fine. You just wanna try to eliminate tearing. I am eyeballing this. I'm not worried about them being perfect because in my head, this is like an old school, like 16th century cemetery, like very old, early colonial America, Salem witch trials-y vibes. I'm going for 3/4 inch, and then I will cut them down to the actual shape of a tombstone after. I have a bunch of these little rectangles now. And I think I'm gonna cut them in half again because I think the height is pretty good for a big old tombstone. But the width is way too much. They're gonna be kind of slightly different sized tombstones, and I think that's actually gonna add a ton of charm and character. Now I'm just gonna start carving them up, and hopefully I have a whole bunch of tombstones to eventually put into my graveyard. Okay, I've done an initial carve. I'm gonna add a lot more detail, but I'm unsure if I'm going about this the easiest way, just carving the shape directly from the foam, instead of like, I could be cutting this shape out and then these bottom shapes out. I don't know, I'll try a few more. I'll switch it up if I want to. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go ahead and carve all of these up. Hopefully a few more ornate and not as simple as this. I do want them varied, like I said, and I'll come back and show you what I've cooked up. I finally finished. I made a bunch of different tombstones. Some of them are broken, which I think is gonna be really cool. I made a bunch of little ones that honestly barely even stand up without glue, and then some bigger ones with some extra little details. I think this should be enough for now. And now I'm gonna finally hit the namesake of the prompt today, which is RUNE, and I'm gonna start carving some creepy little runes into these. Now, I am by no means an expert of XPS foam carving, but there is a grain pattern to most brands of XPS foam. And let me show you what I mean on like a scrap. So if you carve in one direction, it carves pretty easily, right? If you carve the other way, you're gonna get tears. So I like to use a super sharp pencil. Just go back and forth until you have a really good groove. Then you can kind of do whatever. But it's that initial kind of teasing of it that you do want to be extra careful with when you're going against the grain, for it will tend to tear if you do that. Okay, update. There's a lot more information out there about runes than I thought. I might just do some like Nordic runes, some letters, keep it pretty generic. I just want this to look like spooky little runes on my gravestones. This right here is the rune for Journey. I believe this is the rune for Journey. Yeah, that looks cool. This is one for defense. I think this could be cool. This person was a defender of sorts, or maybe someone else is trying to defend their loved ones with this rune.
One thing I forgot to record on camera is the texturing. I just took a trusty ball of tin foil and added some really cool texture. I don't know what it is about these little tiny bits of XPS foam, but they just accept texture so well.
These are gonna look awesome on the board. Thank you for watching, and come back tomorrow if you wanna see what's next for Junktober day 4? Tomorrow's day 4? Yeah, day 4, tomorrow. Come back, check it out.